is indeed an honor and a pleasure on behalf of the Drug Council to extend to you a warm welcome to this graduation ceremony. I must acknowledge the staff on both islands who have worked assiduously to make this event possible. May the entire proceedings be as enlightening as it is relaxing and enjoyable. In this very hotel, as a matter of fact, in this very conference room, on July 12th in the year of our Lord 2001, a similar ceremony took place to appoint the council, reflecting on the Act of 2000, which provides for the prevention and abatement of the misuse and abuse of drugs, to provide for centralized coordination of anti-drug activities. It was the Inter-American Drug Abuse Council Commission, CCAD, which aptly captured the prevailing drug abuse environment when it wrote, "The problem of drugs have become increasingly important in the world. It manifests itself as a complex, shifting, global phenomenon. The problem of abuse and demand, illicit production, distribution and trafficking, including synthetic and designer drugs. Sources of special concerns are the negative consequences of illicit drugs and other controlled substances and related offenses which pose a serious threat to the health and the integrity of the individual and the normal development of society, and at the same time impose enormous social, economic, and political costs on countries. In that regard, countries of the hemisphere recognize the need to strengthen international cooperation and for constant review and improvement of national policies, taking into account the particular circumstances prevailing in each country. It was soon apparent to policymakers that any anti-drug intervention must attempt to prevent drug abuse, help to rehabilitate those affected, ensure that through appropriate laws and policies that illicit drugs and diverted drugs to the illegal market are not available and that drug traffickers receive proper sanctions. By formally launching the Council on July 2001, the government signaled to its hemispheric partners that a national drug abuse body was in place with an appropriate internationally compatible policy and that the fledgling staff would draw on the expertise of related ministries, organizations, and institutions. As a matter of fact, the Council at the time in 2001 consisted of an executive secretary and a secretary, two people, with a volunteer chair and a volunteer chair, vice chair. Broad-based, members drawn from relevant ministries including health, legal, police, customs, defense, associations, and the Chamber of Commerce. What has the Council done? A capsule view. Of course, desk-based work, bearing in mind the UN 1988 Vienna Convention on Crime, the Council ensured that St. Kitts Nevis was current on legislative measures, namely relevant anti-crime and anti-money laundering, ensuring in collaboration with entities including Customs, Coast Guard, Police, that St. Kitts Nevis is in compliance with the relevant ratified and acceded to UN and other conventions. Surveys were carried out, in particular one on secondary school prevalence under the aegis of the OAS, CCAD, and the Inter-American Observatory on Drugs. That was in 2006. We have since followed that up in 2013 to 2014. And let me indicate here that the results said that the drug prevalence in the secondary school was for alcohol and marijuana. Other projects included the IDRC, Canadian Alcohol Control, which is ongoing under the local investigator, Ms. Phillip. Each year, the Council submits reports to the multilateral evaluation mechanism on the status of the drug abuse environment. These reports are evaluated at joint meetings, and appropriate internationally harmonized recommendations are made for implementation by member countries. There are always status checks on how far we have reached in reducing the supply and impact on demand, where we are in decreasing the ability to raise funds for illegal drugs by passing the necessary laws, where we are in the control of chemical precursors, which are sometimes are common substances found even in our supermarkets. And one probably laughable question, but interesting nonetheless, down to the very number of marijuana trees uprooted had to be reported. Training activities also took place with customs and law enforcement, and the council hosted a local workshop on diversion of chemicals under the OAS, and also one in internet drugs. Then there were prevention measures involving education, increased awareness, counseling, and for abuse, treatment, and rehab. And tonight's exercise is a reflection of expertise building, namely the UWI certification on drug prevention and drug treatment. Today, the cadre of prevention and treatment specialists are poised for school and community intervention. I wish at this point to salute some members of former councils, namely Dr. Isben Williams, Dr. Patrick Prince, Dr. Eileen McLachlan, Dr. Sharon Halliday, and Miss Carolyn Brownbill, who have all held the reins of the council. I also applaud the contribution of Mr. Colin Malalu with his advocacy and interventions not only in alcohol, but other drugs of abuse. It was Mr. Malalu who donated substantial funds to help the council function. His work in mental health is legendary, and I'm happy to see that this will culminate in the soon-to-be completed day treatment center. The day treatment center, I understand, was a brainchild of Dr. Halliday, who during her tenure as psychiatrist. In the same vein, I recognize the contributions of Ms. Delacroix Blake, Ms. Manners Woodley, Dr. Teresa Esdale in the area of council, and we have a new vice president in Mr. Michael Morton, who has already helped to move the council forward and was very instrumental in getting this function off to the start that we now see. And I cannot omit the contribution of a former OAS director, Mr. Starrett Green, for his unswerving support to the council. To the small secretariat, the hard-working director, Ms. Byron, Ms. Doyling, and Ms. Evelyn, all filled with enthusiasm, my utmost credit. And I also recognize Mr. Petty, who's now responsible for the workings of the council, having replaced the late Mr. Newton. Mr. Newton would have been proud of this day. What's the future like for the council? This will include a continuation of youth empowerment seminars, the hosting of a regional national drug master plan workshop, development of a local master plan to replace the old one, workshops for drug treatment specialists, and workshops for prevention specialists, group sessions with Alcoholics Anonymous and the JNF Psychiatric Unit, fulfilling our international responsibilities, including meetings and completing surveys, establish a drug prevention and treatment specialist association, continue design and development of drug prevention programs in schools, prisons, the private sector, and sports clubs, and promote the pharmacy bill legislation to assist with the abuse of pharmaceuticals, activation of the alcohol breathalyzer program, establish an anti-abuse drug foundation, a foundation which will enable the council to solicit funds not directly available to governments, Finally, to continue with the maximum participation, the discussion on decriminalization of marijuana. To the graduates, the achievement is indeed a milestone of the Council and the Federation. The graduates have now acquired the expertise to assist with the prevention and drug abuse and also the treatment of those who for various reasons have fallen prey to drug abuse. Many times over the years, it appeared national and internationally that the war on drug abuse was being lost. Then came some successes. Do not give in. Continue the fight rather than flight. Fight rather than flight. No doubt the challenges will continue, but with the requisite expertise and tools, we will continue to fight for a brighter tomorrow, a tomorrow where we heal or rehab when prevention fails. Congratulations to the graduates, to one and all, an enjoyable night. Thank you.
In 2006, the Inter-American Drug Abuse Commission, SICAD, under the Secretariat for Multidimensional Security of the Organization of American States, designed the training and certification program to help remedy challenges by developing and strengthening OAS member state institutions, public policies, and strategies regarding prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation for individuals with problems stemming from drug abuse and violence. The training and certification program, PROCCER, was launched in El Salvador in 2007 and may now be found throughout Central America, Mexico, the member states of Latin America, and the Caribbean region. The objective of the program is to contribute to optimizing the quality of care in prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation of drug abuse and dependence and drug-related violence. This objective is being accomplished through both governmental and non-governmental frontline organizations that provide drug abuse and violence prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation services that target people suffering from drug abuse and/or drug dependence and their families, as well as other high-risk populations. The PROCCER Caribbean initiative was launched in May 2011 in Barbados. Ms. Carolyn Brownbell and Dr. Sharon Halliday were the representatives for St. Kitts and Nevis for this important meeting. I got on board in April of 2012 and carried out a national mapping instrument that assessed St. Kitts and Nevis prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation services. St. Kitts and Nevis, at the time of assessment, was without a specialist in the area of drug and violence prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation. The PROCCER Caribbean has been adapted, developed, and implemented on a regional level while meeting country-specific needs and capacities. The motto of PROCCER is, prevention and addiction treatment is only as good as the workforce that delivers it. That is, if we don't have qualified service providers, then the prevention and treatment efforts are most likely not evidence-based and not meeting the necessary standards of care. We must invest in our human resources in order to yield the greatest positive change in drug demand reduction in the hemisphere. The PROCCER program objective is to contribute to optimizing the quality of care in the prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation of drug abuse and dependence and all related violence activities. At the end of the day, we at the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention need to be able to rest knowing we did all that we could to empower service providers to provide the best quality of care possible. We can do our best to try and ensure this optimal level of care by providing the competencies, skills, and knowledge necessary. Early recognition and early intervention results in treatable, controllable, and often curable mental health and substance use and mental health disorders. Thus, having a cadre of persons trained was of paramount importance. We believed that healthcare professionals at all levels are strategically placed to not only assist with this, but to perpetuate a team approach to integration and management of common mental health and substance abuse disorders. In light of the above, the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention, through PROCCER of OAS, trained a number of health and social services professionals. 57 persons returned successful in the training program. 28 of the trainees are now certified by the University of the West Indies as drug prevention specialists and 29 as drug treatment specialists. The National Drug Council, in keeping with the biological, psychological, and social causation of substance use disorders, selected 6 trainers in various capacities. All trainers traveled to Miami in February of 2014 for an intense training, and all were successfully certified as PROCCER trainers of trainees. St. Kitts and Nevis certified trainers are as follows, and I would like them to stand so that they could be acknowledged at this time. For the prevention track, following the social construct, we had Ms. Deborah Matthew, and she holds a master's degree in human resource management and has been a social worker for over 28 years, and who is the director of probation and child protection services. Unfortunately, Curtis isn't here with us, but she came from the psychological perspective, and Curtis Clark at the time held a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology and was a counselor of the psychiatric unit at Alexander Hospital in Nevis. However, Ms. Clark was unable to perform her training duties with us, as she was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship to do her master's at the College of Counseling and Clinical Psychology in Taiwan. I was also successful with obtaining a training of trainer certificate for prevention track of PROCCER, with a background in general and clinical psychology and behavioral health care. I also was one of the co-coordinators for the PROCCER St. Kitts training. For the treatment track, we had, thank you. For the treatment track with a psychological background, we had Mrs. Michelle Delacadre Blake, who is a master's level psychologist and the director of counseling services at the Counseling Center in Greenlands. We also had Ms. Caroline Brownbill, who holds a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology and has been the counselor at Her Majesty's Prison for over 10 years. So we're in the back. And from the biological perspective, Dr. Sharon Halliday. Dr. Sharon Halliday is a consultant psychiatrist and licensed clinical addiction specialist. She functions as a volunteer consultant to the Drug Council Secretariat. She is also the co-coordinator for the St. Kitts Nevis PROCCER training. The prevention track of the training began 1st October 2014 and ended 12th of March 2015. The written examination, group presentations, and field exercises were carried out during the period 27th through to the 29th of April 2015. The treatment track of training began 6th of October 2014 and ended 1st of May 2015. The written and oral exams were carried out on the 1st and 2nd of June 2015. All exams were invigilated by Mrs. Gail Gray Phillip, who is a good friend of the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention. Where is she? Gail, can you please stand so that we can all see your face? Thank you. As well as Dr. Moya Rotham, who is not here with us tonight. I am pleased to announce that we received 100% passes in both tracks. Each track of the program covered 5 general modules. The prevention track modules were Module 1, Minimum Quality Standards for a Drug Abuse Prevention Program, Module 2, Initial Assessment, Module 3, Models of Intervention and Planning for Drug Abuse Prevention, Module 4, Communicating Strategies and Outcome of Drug Abuse Prevention Programs, and Module 5, Outcome Evaluation of Drug Abuse Prevention Programs. The treatment track modules included Module 1, Understanding Drug Dependency, a Transdisciplinary Perspective, Module 2, professional ethics and education for the patient, family, and the community. Module 3, clinical evaluation and coordinating services. Module 4, treatment plans. And Module 5, counseling skills. During the training, everyone participating were given a snack and lunch on training dates. Boat passes were prepared. Our Nevis participants came over high water some days to reach the training. After each module, each trainer had their own evaluations to complete online. Trainers had to be videotaped and were evaluated by St. George's University in Grenada to ensure we met the appropriate standards. Surprise parties were held, prayer meetings were called, lots of group work and role playing, and tons of homework. At the Secretariat, there were numerous documents to complete for Drug Council's records, St. George's University, University of the West Indies, and the Organization of American States. Collectively, we gained a lot, personally and professionally. Although we were confident in our fields, we have developed more confidence in offering services as it relates to drug prevention and drug treatment. So what is the overall outcome of the training for both tracks? Well, specifically for the prevention track, we already have 7 quality standard drug prevention programs that have been designed to meet specific populations. And these are Bastia High School's READ program. We have Virtual High School Drug Prevention Program. Her Majesty's Prison Silver Dust Drug and Violence Prevention Program. The prevention specialists who created these programs are cheering loudly. We have the Irish Community Elderly Population Drug Prevention Program. A program was developed for the Rams Village Superstar. Mental Health Drug Prevention Program. And a program was also developed to target professionals. At the end of the PROCCER training, we now have specialists with capabilities of meeting the needs of persons with substance use and mental health disorders by offering quality standard in the following areas: screening, intake, orientation, assessment, drug prevention program design and development, drug prevention program management, drug prevention program monitoring and evaluation, drug prevention facilitation, treatment planning, counseling, case management, crisis intervention, client education, referral, report and record keeping, and consultation. That's a lot. Following this graduation ceremony, our specialists, with the support of the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention, are eager to establish a National Drug Abuse Prevention and Treatment Association. The overall vision of this group is to encourage and empower each other through sharing of ideas, knowledge, and experiences. We are also eager to give back to the communities we serve. As this gets underway, we will be sure to inform the general public about its development and activities. I know this is not a thank you speech, and I am confident that Ms. Lorraine Archibald will do an excellent job with thanking all who played a pivotal role with making this training possible. However, I will not be able to sit comfortably if I do not take this opportunity to thank a few persons. First, Dr. Sharon Halliday for being such an amazing co-coordinator during the tenure of this program. I also thank all the trainers who quickly came on board when I approached them about the opportunity that was afforded to us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. They readily gave up resumes and passport information to facilitate their training. I also must acknowledge and thank my staff at the Secretariat, Ms. Jennifer Evelyn and Mrs. Sharima Burke-Doyling. Yes. Were tasked with assisting us with entering the necessary grades for pre- and post-tests, which were done for each module and each track of the program. They assisted us by ensuring that all electronic documents for UE, St. George's University, and OAS were accurately recorded. They also ensured that all documents, grades, assignments, presentations, CDs of programs were packaged and shipped off successfully to UWI's Mona campus for final grading. They were also instrumental with informing all participants of notices throughout the training and up to this point. Thank you to the entire staff at the Secretariat. There are so many other things that I could highlight here, but in the interest of time, I must end this overview because I know we are all eager to officially receive our certificates. So I end with this very simple but profound quote by William James. Act as if what you do makes a difference. It does. Thank you.
I am truly delighted and honored to have the opportunity tonight to bring official remarks at this momentous occasion. Firstly, we are here to honor the 57 graduates who have successfully completed months of intense training and examinations to be certified by the University of the West Indies as drug prevention and drug treatment specialists. I want us to give a round of applause to all the graduates this evening. And I'm advised that several of the graduates have traveled across the channels to be here from Nevis. We want to make our Nevisians citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis feel particularly welcome. Could we give our graduates out of Nevis a special hand of welcome? From the overview given by Lady Byron, we understand that this was not an easy undertaking, and so we commend all the participants who have made it at this level tonight, and we commend them for their sacrifice and determination to complete an important element of training. I take this opportunity too to thank the OAS, who I am advised funded this training, and for providing the financial and technical support that has ensured that we have qualified service providers who will now offer drug prevention and treatment services in the Federation. Mr. Craig, could you kindly convey the government's appreciation to your principals at the OAS? We all know, thank you. We all know the harmful use of drugs is a serious problem that creates severe impacts on the health of users and their families and the wider communities. Your support tonight for this fundraiser, which will assist with providing necessary resources to move programs and services in the area of drug treatment and prevention, is much appreciated. I understand that the local private sector and the private sector at large had been quite generous in its sponsorship this year, and I want us to give them all a round of applause. Indeed, I want also to acknowledge the instrumentality of Colin Malalu, who has been a long-standing benefactor to this particular effort. And of course, equally, I want to acknowledge the presence of the President of the Chamber, Damian Hobson, in our midst. Could we give them a round of applause? I want to share the testimony of one Nigel, who I gather was a drug user, and who told the Foundation for a Drug-Free World that the real impact of drugs is for the individual who takes it. And Roger had this to say: you believe that Coke will increase your perceptions, that it will allow you to surpass yourself, that you will be able to control things. It's nonsense. After a while, you don't pay your bills anymore. You don't wash yourself anymore. You give up your friends, your family, you will become defenseless and you become alone. End of quote. These are the devastating consequences for the person who takes and becomes addicted to drugs. But what about their families and the society at large who also have to pay the costs emotionally, financially, and in terms of crime? The police, high command, and officers of our criminal investigation department and the violent crimes unit in the police force are of the firm view that many of the violent crimes, including homicides, that are occurring in the Federation are connected in some way to the use and trafficking in drugs of one type or the other. And in that regard, I want to acknowledge the presence of Assistant Commissioner of Police Andre Mitchell, who is here with us. Could we give him a round of applause and his new promotion and elevation? It is critical that we eradicate the trafficking and the use of illegal drugs from our communities, and all of us have an important role to play in this regard. The National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention is an important department within the Ministry of National Security, and it is charged with the development and implementation of programs to reduce drug use and abuse in the Federation. The Ministry of National Security, and by extension, the government, seeks to fully assist and empower the National Drug Council in meeting its annual objectives and the delivery of its programs. It is well known that the misuse and abuse of substances is a serious problem that has a severe impact on our youth, our health system, our communities, and our nation as a whole. To get an idea of the impact that substances have on our Federation, I will provide some local findings as well as some other statistics from around the world. In 2013, the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, with technical support from Mrs. Gail Gray Phillip, and with sponsorship from the OAS, carried out the 4th Secondary School Drug Prevalence Survey. The results from the nationally represented study reveal the following. Roughly 6 out of 10 secondary school students surveyed perceive that drugs are available in their school. This is a significant number. This perception seems to increase with the form or grade. The higher you go, the stronger was the perception that drugs was there within the school. 75% of the students were of the opinion that students bring drugs to the school. Almost 50% of the respondents reported that they had seen other students using drugs around the school environment. Few students are of the view that frequent use of marijuana and moderate use of alcohol is not harmful to one's health. Approximately 42% indicated that they have used illegal drugs at least once. Approximately 66% of the respondents indicated that they drank alcohol at least once. 24% stated that they have used marijuana. There is a 10% increase in the lifetime prevalence of marijuana and approximately a 7% increase in the use of any illegal drug when the results of 2013 were compared to those of 2006. There was a roughly 1% increase in the use of crack and also in the use of cocaine. The proportion of female students who reported that they have drunk alcohol is higher than that of the males. This was also reported in the 2006 survey. The proportion of female students who had taken alcohol was higher than the comparator with respect to the male gender. And that was obtained in 2006. The results were repeated again in 2013. These are all significant findings that warrant deeper study and perhaps a larger sample. The students first tried drugs between the ages of 10 to 13 years. So we are looking at primary school students and first and second formers. When the students were asked about attendance at school activities geared towards drug prevention, only 13.2% indicated that they have attended such activity. This information and these statistics are alarming, and we see a need for more prevention services, therefore, in our schools, starting at primary school setting. I am pleased in this regard, then, to be advised that when the coordinator of the to be advised that 2 of our schools have already designed drug prevention programs to address these particular findings. And these 2 schools that are pioneering in this regard are the Bastia High School. Let us give the representative of the school here a round of applause, and the Virchilds High Schools. Funding, of course, is to be sought, and the government will do all it can to provide assistance to move these programs forward. The assistance of the community and our corporate partners is solicited in providing the necessary resources for such initiatives to be executed. According to a report entitled Drug and Criminal Behavior, Exploring the Linkages Within the Prison Population of St. Kitts and Nevis 2012, 52% of the prisoners in the sample, and this sample are surveyed persons who were convicted and persons who were on remand at the prison. 52% of that population confirmed the existence of a relationship between their crimes and drugs, and stated that they were under the influence of a drug or were intoxicated when the crime from which they were imprisoned was committed. More than 50% of the convicted prisoners who confirmed that they were under the influence of a drug when they perpetrated their crimes claimed to have been under the influence of alcohol. 18.2% said that they were under the influence of marijuana, while 9.1% responded that they were under the influence of cocaine, crack cocaine, and tobacco, respectively. Remand prisoners were asked whether or not the crimes for which they were previously convicted and imprisoned were committed under the influence of any drug. 2/3 of the respondents said yes, while the remaining 1/3 said no. The opinions of the convicted prisoners were canvassed regarding their beliefs about whether the crime would have been committed were they not under the influence of any drugs. 63.6% of the prisoners said that they did not think that they would have committed the crime were they not under the influence of drugs. 27.3% said that they would have committed the crime whether or not they were under the influence of drugs. Although we cannot state from these findings that substance abuse absolutely causes criminal behavior, we see a close relationship between drugs and criminal behavior and the impact this has on the lives of the individuals and in turn society at large. With the help of prevention and treatment programs within our communities and even within the prison, we hope to see a reversal of this pattern. I also understand that one of the prevention groups from this training has already designed a prevention program for the prison called Silver Dust, and we look forward to the effective implementation of this one. We are also aware of the effects of substances on our health. Substance abuse and mental disorders, which often go hand in hand, are products of one biological and psychological makeup and social consequences or the environment, as well as one's cultural and religious beliefs. This makes many of us vulnerable to the development of a substance abuse and mental disorder at any stage of our lives. Mental health and substance abuse disorders are some of the most widespread illnesses, often coexisting with other serious medical and surgical illnesses, and cause some of the greatest social ills in our communities, such as violent behaviors. Common mental health and substance abuse problems have been associated with substantial impairment in health-related quality of life. One of the most common substances of abuse is alcohol. Reducing alcohol-related harm is now a global public health challenge and priority according to the World Health Organization. It is through preventative and treatment programs and services, such as those that will be offered by these newly certified drug prevention and drug treatment specialists, as well as the coming together of mental health, social and human services workers, that we will begin to receive that breath of fresh air which we all long for, and which will have a long-term impact on reducing the negative impact of drugs on our lives. The truth is, it will take all of us, you, the drug prevention and treatment specialists, the National Council on Drug Abuse Prevention, our security forces, the private sector, the NGOs, the governmental community, the young, the old, the teachers, the counselors, to all play a vital part in creating a drug-free society. Together, we can make a difference for our people today and for tomorrow's generation. It is therefore a good thing to record that a significant number of our citizens are on board and want to see a drug-free St. Kitts and Nevis, but more importantly, are committed to act to ensure a positive results. The 57 graduates whom we salute tonight are part of that critical mass within the population that will help our people to say no to drugs and to help us in creating a drug-free society. In closing, I leave the words of wisdom which are taken from the Holy Bible as declared by Paul in Ephesians chapter 4. Quote, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you to walk worthy of the calling with which you are called, with all lowliness and gentleness, with long-suffering, bearing with one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body, one Spirit, just as you were called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who above all and through all and you in all. let us work together in peace to contribute to a greater awareness of the problem of drug use and drug abuse in the Federation, and let us all combine our efforts, our energies, our creativity to create a drug-free St. Kitts and Nevis. May God bless us all. I thank you.
It's an extreme pleasure for me to convey congratulations on behalf of the Organization of American States, and especially the Secretary General, Mr. Luis Almagro. We at the OAS are also pleased to have partnered with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis in this noble effort, and we will continue to do so. There is really a short message which I would like to come across, and I call it ECI. What does that mean? It's called ethics, confidentiality, and inclusion. Ethics. I would like to call upon you to exercise the highest standards of ethics when executing your duties. This will surely maintain your high profile of integrity. The second one is confidentiality. As we live in a small society, it is of utmost importance to keep your client's information confidential. Thirdly, inclusion. Include your community, include the society in terms of promoting your prevention policies. I would leave you with these three messages for tonight. We at the OAS office in St. Kitts and Nevis are ready, and be assured that we will continue to lend our support. We are there, and we're looking forward to assist you in any way possible in your noble effort. I thank you, and I congratulate you once again.
I am charged with the responsibility of proposing a toast on your behalf to the graduates. In doing so, I want to firstly say how happy I am to see that so many of you from all walks of life have come here to join in celebrating the achievements of all of the graduates, and to say to them how proud we are by our very presence here tonight. So give yourselves a round of applause. Further, all of us have heard from the Prime Minister some very frightening statistics. All of us are living in this beautiful country. All of us are well aware of the problems that plague our land, and more so in recent times. And all of us are fully aware of some of the causes. Tonight, we have been equipped with facts. We have been presented with some trained specialists who are ready to join us and are asking us all to join with them in going out there now and ensuring that we change the direction in which we see our young people going. I therefore, before speaking to the graduates, in speaking to you who are here tonight, asking you as you return home this evening, think of what you can do to join with all of these specialists and indeed the Council on Drug Abuse Prevention and now treatment in helping to curb the problems we face. I therefore urge you, I charge you, let us go into our communities, our workplaces, our churches, our voluntary groups, organizations, and evangelize and warn them of the dangers we face if we are not going to suffer the consequences so many of us have suffered in the past. We have now got these graduates here tonight who have made lots of sacrifices. As you heard, much hard work had to be put in. Sleepless nights, studying and preparing for the 100% pass mark, which all of them achieved and which they're to be highly commended for. And I believe the enthusiasm, the commitment demonstrated so far gives us all hope. I would therefore charge all of us to let us join in celebrating the achievements, but let us also pledge to work with all of these graduates now to make their work successful. And in closing, I want to congratulate them all. I want you, therefore, to allow the graduates to sit along with our Governor General, but I would like very much the rest of us to stand and salute not only the graduates, but the facilitators, Dr. Sharon Halliday, Mistress Michelle de Lacouture Blake, Miss Caroline Brumbill. These are all treatment specialist trainers. And then we have the prevention specialist trainers, Miss Deborah Matthew, and our very own director, Karimu Byron. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand with me as I propose a toast to the very successful graduates who are tonight being honored in our midst. We want to wish them all the very best in their future endeavors, and we pledge our unequivocal support in all their laudable future undertakings. God bless them all.
Charmaine Heiliger, Cheryl Amory Isaac, Yvette Jeffers, Michelle Powell, Roy Zeens Richards, Tanisha Stanley,
Anesta Mulrain, Travis Rogers,